welcome. My name is Joe Barrasso. I'm the director of the Ohio ESGR committee. We have about 160 volunteers in the state. So I want to explain to you a little bit about ESGR. We basically support you, the employers of any of the military in Ohio. We're part of the Office of the Secretary of Defense. We came into being at the end of the draft for Vietnam because DoD realized that without a draft, we're going to have a lot of reservists that are going to need support from their employers, and that's where you come in and that's where we come in. We have 6 regions. We're based out of the central part. We have a southern, west, north, 2 norths. We're kind of based around where the military is. That's how many Guard Reserve members there are in Ohio. It used to be back when I first joined the Guard. I was active duty in the 70s, and then I came in the Guard in the 80s. And we did 2 days on the month, you know, and we did 15 days every summer, and that was it. We never went anywhere. We didn't do anything. Now we went from a reserve force to a strategic force, and that's a big deal. And it happened. A lot of people say it happened in 9/11, which I'm sure pushed a lot of it. But as you know, it used to be the active duty took care of everything, and if they needed help, they called the Guard, and they never needed help. You know, they didn't want to call them. And now we do more of a function than the active duty does. There's more of us. We do more training. We have more assets, and we're a big deal. We're a cheap deal for the DoD. We're 7% of their budget, and we do probably 45% of the security stuff in the military. So, you know, it's a big deal. But you know, when you add all that up, you go 7%. Who's paying the rest of that? Well, that's you guys. That's the people that support us when we're not on active duty, because we have to have a job when we're not on active duty. What we try to do is educate you and the military on what it is they need to do. DOL takes care of most of the nasty things when it comes to USERRA laws, you know, when it gets too sticky for us to mess with. But we take care of, right now, about 95% of the complaints between military and employers. The Senate Bill 289 is the Ohio version of the USERRA law, is to protect the service members when they're called out by the governor. Ombudsman services, that's the members that support the USERRA law. The service member or a company will call me with an issue. If I can't resolve it, I'll send it to the National. The National will send us a case number, and it'll go out to one of our ombudsmen. A good thing about the boss lift, it's not done for us. Boss lift, those guys are going to go out and train anyway, so it doesn't cost anybody anything. They put an extra boom on because of us. We need an extra boom to help us as safety. That's all it costs them. They're already doing the mission, so that's how we get away with it, and that's how you guys get to see what's going on. Statement of support. That's one of our big deals. You've got one in front of you. That is a non-binding way to show your support. A lot of people will fill that out and stick it up on their wall or in their office or in their bulletin board where they work. We've got a lot of big supporters. Gordon Gee's signed, Scott's Miracle Grow, Cheryl's Cookies in the Central, Nationwide Insurance, Turner Construction. We've got a lot of support. This just shows the military and the people that come into your office that you support the military members that work for you. You're not for the war, you're not for anything else. You support the military who protects us, that's all.
Okay, I'm going to turn it over to the Vice Commander of the unit here, Colonel Jim Pfaff.
Colonel Stevens, our wing commander, is in the midst of some pretty heavy work right now. He's been out of the office for a couple of days. He'd like to be here with you if he could. But I'm here, so let's go to the next slide. I think KC-135 is one of the most unsung missions in the military. People aren't really familiar with it. All my life I've told people that's what I fly, and they go, what's that? Because they know what a B-52 is, and they know what an F-15 is, and they know who the Thunderbirds are and all that. But you do what? I'm a gas station in the sky. Air refueling is the mission that gives the United States a lot of reach around the world, able to reach out and touch people on the other side of the world. In the case of humanitarian things, if we're getting supplies to folks who are in bad shape, like in Somalia, someplace like that back in the early 90s. Pakistan had an earthquake a couple of years ago. Got relief supplies there. You can launch an airplane off the East Coast, get a refueling out of the Azores Islands, get another refueling in the Mediterranean, and 16 to 18 hours after takeoff, folks in South Asia or East Africa can be receiving the supplies, the food, the medical attention, the personnel that they need to have to help solve their problem. Cargo transfer, this airplane can carry up to 30,000 pounds on 6 pallets, which makes us kind of a good cargo carrier, but not like you might think with some of the big airplanes that we have in the Air Force inventory. We're a good supplement. Personnel transfer, about 58 people. We're about the size of a 707 airliner, but when you get on board, you'll start to understand the airplane was built to carry gas, not people. One of the things I talked about in terms of the National Guard being largely part-time is the fact that this saves the taxpayers a lot of money because we're able to maintain that combat capability. As you can see, the National Guard and Reserves are the majority of the refueling fleet. AC-135 was probably one of the best investments of the Eisenhower administration. And thank goodness that they made that investment because we're still using it. Ike was a smart guy. The airplane was built in the Cold War as a means of making sure the bombers could make it over the top to fight back the godless commies. And it'll carry 200,000 pounds of gas, which is about 31,000 gallons. Just for comparison, you see those big trucks pull up in the service station, it's carrying about 8,000 to 9,000 gallons. So you're looking at 3, maybe 4 of those trucks in the sky. We can offload that fuel as fast as 1,000 gallons a minute.
The folks who are out there are so dependent. It's the job, it's the livelihood, but it's the support they get. It's the recognition of the job they're doing. As he said, the reserves are strategic. It's not a 1 weekend a year or 1 thing and 2 weeks a year like I experienced. It's real. And it's so critical that they know they have something to come back to. And this is one way to recognize it. A lot of us at work, send care packages and things like that. As I talk to friends I knew in Iraq, it's actually pretty well stocked. As one guy said, we can go to the base exchange and get any kind of big screen television you want, and sometimes we don't have soap, but those things are generally there. And what they worry about is the families. And so many of you, and I'll use this to recognize all of you, have reached out to the families, whether it's taking the kids to things. I actually have a guy who's recognizing in the school his daughter went to for the support that they gave. And so it's utterly critical that they're there because they're losing that breadwinner and the person who provides so much support.
We're the largest Air National Guard Air Refueling Wing. We have 18 aircraft, so we're about the size of a lot of the active duty units that we're partnered with. One of the great things I always like to tell people about the military is that we try and be the sort of people you'd like to have in your life as employees, as co-workers, as bosses, as family members. You look at these core values that we espouse, and there's nothing here you wouldn't want in your own world. If you don't have integrity, if you can't trust people, you don't want them around. If somebody tells you a lie, nothing else really matters at that point. America is blessed in a way that no other country in the world is. That we have people from every continent, every race, every language, every religion, every culture, and we embrace that and it becomes our strength. Being the National Guard, Most people think of us, the paradigm of weekend warriors. We're not that anymore. We're here about 355 days a year. Most of our folks are still traditional part-time members. Because of the flying mission, about a third of us are full-time. Most of those people are in aircraft maintenance, but if you walked over to our personnel shop, there's about 7 people working there today. If you went to the personnel shop at Wright-Patterson, there's probably 50. Now you come in here on a drill weekend, we'll be full strength like they are.